Growing up, my mom and I were like best friends, trapped in a mother-daughter label. She was the young, single mother who raised me with fierce independence and a deep mistrust of men. Her own heartbreaks shaped her, especially the one she never got over. My biological father, who vanished before I took my first breath. So when she finally found love again in a man named Armand, I wanted to be happy for her. Truly, I did. I was 17 when Armand entered our lives. A quiet, polished man with the kind of calm charm that made people lean in. He was older than my mom by a few years and ran his own architecture firm. Mom called him a steady boat after years of emotional storms. And for her sake, I smiled and nodded, even though something about him always felt off. Fast forward 6 years. I'm now 23, working part-time at a bookstore, and completing my degree in psychology. I rent a small flat across town, but visit Mom often, mostly because I still worry about her. Armand and we maintain a cool, distant politeness. He never raised his voice, never said anything inappropriate, but he had this habit of watching me. Lingering stares, measured glances. I brushed it off for years as overthinking. Until I met Samir. Samir was everything I never thought I needed. Sweet, goofy, the kind of guy who'd show up with biryani and chai just because I said I had a bad day. He had a dimple that ruined every argument I tried to start, and a way of making me feel seen. Truly seen. We met at the bookstore over a shared love of vintage Urdu poetry. 6 months later, we were in love. I never hid him from my mom. She liked him, though she had her opinions, as always. She thought he was too soft, not worldly enough. Armand, on the other hand, barely acknowledged his existence. But I didn't care. For the first time in years, I felt happy and safe, like maybe I didn't have to carry my mother's fears as my own. That was until the night everything changed. It started small. Mom calling me out of the blue, asking questions that felt too pointed. Why didn't you answer Samir's call last night? Who were you with? You've been acting strange. She wasn't just asking. She was accusing. I thought it was stress. Maybe she was going through something with Armand again. But then the text started. Anonymous messages from an unknown number. Screenshots of me with classmates. Twisted captions. A photo of Samir hugging another girl with a timestamp that didn't even match up. It was messy, but convincing if you were already suspicious. Then came the final blow. Mom showed up at my apartment, face pale, eyes glassy with betrayal. She didn't knock. She just barged in, threw a pile of printed messages on my coffee table, and said the words that turned my world upside down. I didn't raise you to cheat on a man who loves you. I was too stunned to speak. Samir stood in the kitchen, frozen mid-step. My heart thundered in my chest as I looked at my mom, my mother, who always trusted me above anyone else. And in that moment, I knew. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. Someone wanted to destroy me. And I had a terrible, gut-deep feeling I knew exactly who it was. The silence between us was unbearable. Mom stood stiff in my living room, arms crossed like a wall I couldn't climb. Samir glanced at me helplessly, his mouth parting slightly as if to speak, but the tension in the air choked all words. I picked up one of the printed messages from the table. A blurry photo of me standing outside campus, talking to a classmate, a deal. The angle made it look intimate, but I remembered that day. He had just confessed he had feelings for me, and I was letting him down gently. The caption read, "Not the only man she's stringing along." Below it, a screenshot of a message supposedly sent from my number. "He's too boring. I just need him until I graduate. Then I'll see what's next." My stomach twisted. "That's fake," I whispered, holding the paper up. "You really think I'd say that about Samir?" Mom narrowed her eyes. "So explain this," she said, tossing another sheet toward me. This one was worse. A message thread between me and someone saved as Baby Heart. Suggestive messages, late-night plans, a hotel name, none of it mine. "I don't know who made this," I started. "Stop lying, Alina." Mom's voice cracked. I didn't want to believe it, but I saw the messages with my own eyes. Armin showed me. He said he caught you sneaking around, that you've been hiding things from me for months. I blinked. "Armin?" Samir stepped in. "Auntie, with all due respect, this doesn't make sense. Alina would never—" Mom cut him off. "He saw you two fighting outside your building, too. He thought she was being blackmailed. He said he tried to talk to her, but she got defensive." My mouth went dry. That argument? It wasn't a fight. Samir had surprised me with a visit while I was in my pajamas, and I jokingly yelled at him for not warning me. We ended up laughing and hugging. It was playful, normal, not blackmail, not scandal. Something was wrong, deeply wrong, and it all pointed to Arman. That man had never cared for me, never treated me like a daughter, always watched, always quiet, always calculated. And now he'd planted a lie so poisonous my own mother couldn't look me in the eye. Why? That night, after Mom stormed out, telling me she needed time to process everything, Samir and I sat in silence. I was shaking, not from guilt, but from disbelief. "Why would Arman do this?" I asked aloud, staring at the floor. Samir hesitated. "Alina, this is going to sound crazy, but what if this isn't about you cheating? What if it's about control? Or deflection?" I looked up. "Deflection?" He nodded slowly. "People like him, if they're hiding something, they'll burn everything around them to keep the spotlight off themselves." The thought chilled me. Was he trying to break my relationship? Or was he trying to distract Mom from something darker? I remembered the way he always kept his phone screen tilted away. The late-night calls he said were work emergencies. The time I walked in on him deleting messages, and he casually said, "Just clearing junk?" My heart sank with a heavy thud. Was Arman, the man my mother trusted above all, hiding a secret of his own? And had he thrown me under the bus to keep it buried? I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, Armin's cold, watchful stare crept into my mind like smoke under a locked door. His voice, calm and deliberate, echoed in my head. "She's not who you think she is. I'm just trying to protect you, Mahira." Protect her from what? From me? The irony stung. The man who had never once spoken to me like a real stepfather was now suddenly concerned. So concerned that he went behind my back and spun a story that made my own mother question everything about me. I sat at the edge of my bed, scrolling through the screenshots again. The ones he had sent to Mom. The ones that reeked of manipulation. Timestamps blurred, the tone off. Too generic to be real. I knew my own voice, even in writing. But how could I prove they were fake? Samir sat beside me, quiet but alert. His hand grazed mine. "Alina," he said gently, "you need to confront him." I shook my head. "And say what?" "Hey, Armin, can you stop trying to destroy my life? He'll play innocent, act shocked, twist it around and make me look paranoid." Samir leaned closer, then let him slip. "People like him always do." I wanted to believe him, but a part of me, maybe the part scarred by years of swallowing my instincts, still wondered if I was making this bigger than it was. What if I was wrong? What if Armin wasn't the villain, and I was just looking for someone to blame? I hated that I even questioned myself. But that's what manipulation does. It makes you doubt your own memory, your own gut. The next morning, I drove to Mom's house. She didn't answer my calls, but I knew she'd be there. Armin's car was parked outside, polished and gleaming like always. I sat in my car for several minutes, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Was I ready for this? Was I ready to look my mother in the eyes and say, "You believed him over me?" I rang the bell. Mom answered. Her eyes were tired, red. She hadn't slept either. "Can we talk?" I asked quietly. She hesitated, then stepped aside. 5 minutes. We sat on the edge of the couch, familiar, but now foreign. "I didn't cheat on Samir," I said, "and you know that." Her lips tightened. "Then explain the messages." "I can't, because I didn't write them. Armin is lying to you." She looked up sharply. "Why would he do that?" I wanted to scream, cry, shake her. Instead, I took a deep breath. "I don't know. Maybe he's hiding something. Maybe he's trying to distract you. But Mom, think about it. Does it really make sense that I'd lie to you, to him, to Samir? For what?" She said nothing. Just then, Armin walked in. Like he owned the room. Calm. Composed. He looked at me like I was a rebellious teenager again, not a grown woman fighting to clear her name. "Alina," he said smoothly, "I know this is hard. But you have to stop lying. It's hurting your mother." I stood. My voice was shaky, but loud. "And you need to stop pretending you care." His brow lifted slightly, amused. "Excuse me? I know what you're doing. You created fake texts, sent photos out of context, fed her lies. I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm done being your pawn." A flicker, just a flicker. In his eyes, something twitched. Panic? Anger? Then it was gone. Mom stood between us. "Enough, both of you." I turned to her. "If you don't believe me, then fine. But I know I'm not crazy, and one way or another, I'm going to find out what Armin's hiding." I left before I could cry. Samir was waiting in the car. I slid into the passenger seat, my heart pounding. He started driving. "So?" "I confronted him," I said softly. "He didn't break, but something shifted. I saw it in his eyes." Samir glanced at me. "Then we're close." I nodded. But close to what? I didn't know yet. All I knew was I wasn't backing down. Not this time. It all unraveled because of a mistake. A small one. A digital receipt emailed to my old inbox. I hadn't checked that email in months. It was linked to an old food delivery account I barely remembered. But that morning, as I sat in the university library trying to distract myself from the chaos at home, I saw the notification pop up. "Thank you for your order, Arman." Location: Park View Apartments. Tower B, Flat 12A. Time: 11:47 p.m., 2 nights ago, for 2 people. My heart stuttered. That wasn't our address. It wasn't even near my mom's neighborhood. And the name on the receipt? It wasn't hers. It was a woman's name. Zoya Khan. I felt my blood run cold. Why was Arman ordering dinner under his name, to a random woman's flat, in the middle of the night? I forwarded the email to myself and grabbed my bag. Samir was already in the parking lot when I got outside. "You look like you saw a ghost," he said. "I might have," I replied, climbing into the passenger seat. "We need to go to Park View Apartments. Now." He didn't ask questions, just drove. It was a sleek, upscale building in a quieter part of town. The kind of place someone would use for secrets, discretion. We reached the 12th floor. I could barely breathe as we approached 12A. I raised my hand to knock, but before I could, the door cracked open. And there he was, Armin, wearing a t-shirt and jeans. Casual, comfortable. Behind him, a woman, late 20s, striking in a silk robe, appeared, adjusting her hair. "Who is it, baby?" she asked lazily, then froze when she saw me. Armin's face paled. "Alina," he said slowly, "what are you doing here?" I felt like the ground beneath me had disappeared. I could ask you the same thing, I whispered. Samir stepped forward, holding up his phone. You left your digital footprints, genius. You ordered biryani to your girlfriend's place and forgot to change your email settings. Zoya frowned. Girlfriend? Wait, who is she? I couldn't hold it in anymore. She's his stepdaughter. Zoya's eyes widened. What? The air exploded. Zoya started yelling. Arman tried to shut the door. Samir blocked it. And I just stood there, frozen, staring. Every lie he'd ever told. Every time he claimed to be working late. Every time he twisted my mom's view of me, made me the villain. It was all so he could cover this. I snapped out of it and took a deep breath. You tried to ruin my relationship, Arman. You turned my own mother against me. All to keep this secret? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I'm done being silent, I said, voice shaking but firm. You want to play dirty? Fine. But now I've got the truth. Zoya folded her arms. You're married. Engaged? Arman muttered, defeated. It's complicated. Not anymore, I said. I turned and walked away. Samir followed, holding my hand tightly. We didn't say anything until we got back to the car. You okay? He asked softly. I let out a bitter laugh. Number, but I will be. Because now I had the proof. Arman wasn't just a liar. He was a cheater, a manipulator, and the man who nearly destroyed everything I loved. And I was going to make sure my mom finally saw him for who he really was. I stood outside my mother's house, hands trembling around my phone, staring at the photos I had taken at Zoya's apartment. Arman, half-dressed, Zoya in a silk robe, the time-stamped delivery receipt, his car in the background. Cold, irrefutable evidence. Samir squeezed my hand. You don't have to do this now if you're not ready. I have to, I whispered. If I don't tell her the truth now, he'll keep poisoning her against me. He nodded. We walked in together. Mom was in the living room, flipping through a photo album, the kind she only pulled out when she was emotional. As soon as she saw me, her expression hardened. I told you I needed space, Alina. I know, I said quietly, but you need to see this first. She sighed. More excuses? No, I said firmly, the truth. I handed her my phone. She hesitated, but took it. Her eyes flicked across the photos, slow at first, then faster. Her face went pale. This, she breathed, this isn't possible. It's real. I followed the receipt from his food delivery. That apartment? It's not mine. It's Zoya's. She's not just a friend, Mom. She's more. She stood slowly. No, he wouldn't. As if summoned by the chaos, Arman entered from the hallway, casually sipping tea. But when he saw my phone in her hand, his entire demeanor shifted. What's going on? He asked cautiously. Mom turned to him, voice shaking. Tell me this isn't true. He blinked. What? Tell me you weren't in that apartment, that you weren't with that woman. He glanced at me. You showed her that? You had no right to… Answer me! Mom's voice cracked like thunder. Did you cheat on me? He froze. For a second, I almost saw the gears turning in his head, calculating, spinning a lie. But then… Yes, he said coldly. I did. Just like that. Mom's face collapsed. I've been seeing Zoya for a while, he continued, completely devoid of remorse. And if we're being honest, Mihira, our marriage has been lacking. I gave you comfort, protection. But what did I get back? Suspicion. Distance. You tried to destroy my daughter, she screamed, tears now spilling. You made me believe she was a liar. You told me she was cheating, all while you were the one sneaking around. Arman scoffed. And she still clung to that boy like a leech? You call that loyalty? I stepped forward. I wasn't the one lying. You were. You faked messages. You used my trust to cover your affair. You turned my mother against me to save your own pathetic skin. He walked toward me threateningly. You think you're clever? Digging through emails and stalking me? You'll regret this. Samir stepped between us, eyes blazing. Number you will. The room fell silent. Then Mom said something I'll never forget. You're leaving. Today. Armin blinked. What? You heard me, she said, voice firm now. You pack your things and get out of this house. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. You don't get to poison this home any longer. Armand's jaw clenched, but he didn't argue. He looked at me one last time, pure hate in his eyes, then stormed down the hallway. I turned to Mom expecting more tears, but instead she collapsed into my arms. I'm so sorry, Alina, she sobbed. I believed him. I doubted you when you needed me the most. I held her tight, tears running down my cheeks, too. It's okay, Mom. You didn't fail me. He did. And for the first time in weeks, I felt seen again. He was out. We were finally free. Armin left the same night. He slammed a few drawers, cursed under his breath, and gave me one last venomous glare before the front door clicked shut behind him. No dramatic speech, no last-minute apology. Just silence, and the bitter stench of a man exposed. My mother stood at the window, watching his car drive away. Her shoulders slumped like years of pretending had finally caught up to her. You were right about him, she whispered. All this time. I thought I was protecting myself by trusting him, but I let him twist everything, including you. I didn't know what to say, so I didn't. I just hugged her. Some wounds don't need words to heal, just time and honesty. Samir and I moved back into our apartment a few days later. The air between us felt lighter now, no longer thick with suspicion or silence, but healing wasn't instant. Sometimes he'd still ask quietly, "Why didn't you just tell me earlier about your mom's doubts?" And I'd answer honestly, "Because I didn't want you to see how much her opinion still mattered to me, even after everything." We promised not to let outside voices shake us again. Not my mother's doubts, not anyone else's lies. About a week later, Mom came over, just her. She brought a tin of homemade biryani and a yellow envelope. She set it on the coffee table. Divorce papers, signed. I blinked. You're really doing it? She nodded. I can't rewrite the years I gave him, but I can reclaim the ones ahead of me. There was strength in her voice I hadn't heard in years. And then she said something that hit me harder than anything else. Alina, from now on, I believe you first. Not anyone else. You first. That was the moment the last wall between us crumbled. We weren't perfect, but we were finally honest. Weeks passed. Armand tried contacting Mom once, through a mutual friend. Said he wanted to talk. Said he'd made mistakes. She didn't reply. She didn't need to. She'd already said goodbye the night he chose to lie over love. As for me, I finally got a promotion at work. My focus came back. My confidence returned. Samir and I started traveling again. Short weekend trips at first, then a longer one to Istanbul. And every time we held hands walking through airports or curled up laughing in unfamiliar cafes, I realized how close I came to losing it all because of someone else's secrets. It's funny how betrayal works. It doesn't always start with the people we love the most. Sometimes it sneaks in through someone who never loved us at all. Armand never loved me, not like a father should, but he loved control. He loved silence. He loved knowing he could twist people into knots and still wear a clean shirt to dinner. But the moment I stopped being afraid of his whispers was the moment he lost his power. And now I walk a little taller. Mom's laugh is a little louder. Samir kisses me a little longer before bed. And when I pass by mirrors now, I don't just see the woman who was accused of cheating. I see the woman who was framed, shamed, and still stood up, still fought, still healed. And sometimes I catch my reflection smiling. Because I didn't just prove them wrong, I proved myself right.